Okay, so welcome back to another video on this channel, Rookie Year Soccer. Before we start, I'd just like to say that according to my YouTube analytics, 70% of you watching this video right now aren't subscribed to the channel. So if you do enjoy the content, if you want to see more videos like this, then please make sure to hit that subscribe button, and I promise I'll keep bringing you fantastic content all the time. Now, today we're going to be focusing on a topic that a lot of new investors or new soccer card collectors struggle to get to grips with, and that is grading. So grading is a process by which a company that basically verifies that a card is in a certain condition. So they might verify that it is in mint condition, that it's in excellent condition, that it's in good condition, or poor condition. Grading kind of acts as a guarantee between the seller and buyer of a card that it's in a certain condition as well. So there's lots of grading companies out there. The two that I'm going to speak about, or sort of recommend I guess, is PSA and BGS. These are the two main companies that have fantastic reputations when it comes to grading cards, and yeah, those are the ones you should go with. There are other grading companies obviously available, but I haven't heard as much about them, and I have heard some stories about them being not as thorough with their work. So yeah, PSA and BGS are the ones you want to look out for. So there's a number of things that you need to consider when you're grading cards. One of the first ones is which cards should you pick to grade? Now, obviously when you're buying cards, or if you're pulling cards from a pack, you want to make sure that they're in the nicest condition possible for grading. But what does this mean? Well, I'll go through a few things now that you need to look out for. So the first is centering, and that is basically how equal the borders of a card are between top to bottom and left to right. So you want the image and the print that's printed onto the card to be as central as possible, not leaning sort of left, right, upwards or downwards. So on the screen now, I'm going to put an example up of a poorly graded card. And as you can see here, the centering is not great at all. It leans heavily to one side. And now on the screen, I'm going to put up an example of a PSA 10 card that is incredibly well centered. As you can see, the image and the printing on the card sits perfectly in the middle. Now, for a card to achieve a PSA 9 or a BGS 9 or a PSA 10 or a BGS 9.5, it doesn't need to be absolutely to the millimeter perfectly centered, but you do need to get as close as possible to achieve those top grades. And you know, you might get a grader who's having a bad day and decides to downgrade you. I'm sure that's happened to a lot of people. So yeah, if you're really obsessed with getting a 9 or a 10, then you need to make sure that centering is really fantastic. Next up is corners. The card needs to have 4 sharp corners to achieve those top grades. It can't be sort of smushed in, it can't be soft. Any white around the corner can sometimes affect that as well. There can't be any nicks on the corner. So yeah, the corners need to be sharp, and all of them ideally need to be sharp. Certainly for a 10, they need to be all in mint condition. The next thing that grading companies look at is edges. So the top and bottom and left and right edges. Now these need to be really nice and clean, nice and sharp, just like corners, and free of any nicks, any sort of indents. They need to be looking really fresh. And finally, you have surface flaws like scratches, dents, any sort of permanent damage that can't be removed with a good cleaning. But you know, if you send off a card and you've got fingerprints and smudge prints all over it, then that's really not going to leave a good impression. So yeah, the surface needs to be as shiny and pack fresh as possible. The value of cards when they get graded in a PSA 9 or a PSA 10, or the other companies' sort of grading values, it should definitely increase, but it might not increase by enough to risk sort of sending it off to a grading company. So before you do send off your cards, you really need to sort of decide by looking at completed sales on eBay how much the value increases if it achieves one of the top grades. If it does increase a lot in value when you get it graded a 9 or a 10 and you think that it looks in fantastic condition, by all means send it off. That's a great idea. But if you're a bit worried about the condition and then the value also doesn't increase that much when it's graded, then yeah, maybe leave that one. So there's varying costs for services like PSA and BGS. Varies massively on the age of your cards, how many cards you're going to be sending, if they've got autographs on them, if you want that autograph sort of authenticated by the grading company. But a general rule of thumb that I like to think of is that the more cards you send, the cheaper it will be, because they do cheaper rates for bulk submissions. Now, obviously you want to package up your cards really safely when you send them in. I think that PSA currently are accepting cards submitted in penny sleeves and top loaders, but I might need to be corrected on that, and I generally think that the rule is semi-rigid card holders only. So yeah, to be safe, send them in semi-rigid card holders. So you can also use services like Graded Gem. This isn't sponsored by any means. They're just a company that operates in the UK. You send your cards to them, and then in some of their services they will send you back pre-grades, so you can get an idea of what your cards might get, and then you can choose whether or not to carry on sending them to the grading companies. Graded Gem will then submit your cards for you and then receive them back for you, and then basically you pay them to do that for you. This can make grading a lot less intimidating and kind of lets you sort of put it into someone else's hands who's a bit more expert at doing it. So if you are a beginner investor, then this might be a better idea to use a company like Graded Gem. I'm sure there are others available, but they're the ones that I've heard the most about. So yeah, I just wanted to make a video today on grading because I know a lot of you are beginner investors. If you are more experienced, there will be videos coming that address your sort of needs as well. But yeah, I just wanted to make that today because a lot of people are intimidated by grading. I knew that I was when I first started out. But I hope that everyone who did watch did enjoy this episode, and I will see you again next time.